Environmental, no, industrial pollution. Industrial pollution. There's a simple Google. Now, therein is the adversary. The cost to industry for a single facility can be tens or hundreds of millions of dollars to upgrade environmental pollution controls. It's the same challenge that states, cities, towns have with wastewater treatment. We know what to do, we can't afford to do it. But one thing that doesn't happen typically is when the city, when the state, when the EPA is concerned about wastewater treatment, they don't try to hide that fact. Somebody else tries to hide that fact. Going back to industrial pollution. I'm familiar with gas chromatography and elemental analysis. Two totally different realms of analytic chemistry. The gas chromatographs separate gases. Take a gas stream and take a little sample off of it and separate the gases into the compounds that comprise the sample. That's compound analysis. Gas chromatography is one way of doing that, just one. There's many others now. But that's what I'm familiar with. That is an industrial application. It's used more probably for process controls than for pollution and release controls, because there's other instruments that you would put on a stack for stack gas analysis. But every one of these things I'm talking about has an analytic chemist behind it that understands that instrument specifically and what it reads. The gas chromatographs I serviced were a dozen different constructed gas chromatographs, different valves in them, different columns, different sampling methods, different timing. The waveform analysis out of them was unique for each of the sample types. So you look at things like the width of a column, the time it takes for a peak to flow through the column, things like that. Look for instrument stability. That's a key, because the operator has to be able to trust that instrument's readings to make changes in the process, or to shut the process down, or to make an emergency stop in the process. Industrial pollution. Only 40% of the fossil fuels that we use, that we extract from the planet, go into fuels, and that's all types of fuels. 40%. The other 60% is the wrapping in your refrigerator, the liner, the insulation in your refrigerator. So that 60% has gone under the radar. They've pointed at everything else, from cows to wind turbines killing whales to other noise in the system. But we can be grateful these real conversations are had somewhere in institutions that understand the risks, the concerns, and try to place constraints on unbridled corporate greed. Yes, there I said it. Our notion of profits, the financial market's notion of profits, is broken. The taxes that we don't force them to pay, which end up in our products, that cost is passed on to us. Do not kid yourself. They don't just stick it on there on the side and pay for it with Jeffrey dollars. So these are expensive things. Now, How is this played? One of the largest under construction natural gas terminals is being built down in Texas. This is a behemoth. It's taking natural gas from across the continent, cleaning it, packaging it up, putting it on ships and shipping it off to other countries. As that's part of commerce and trade. We've been buying others' oil. We certainly should be able to sell ours at a cost. That oil is pollution, period. Some level of pollution. Corporations cannot be trusted very well to monitor themselves for these things unless they have a reason or incentive. And frankly, they don't want to get caught, but they're going to try. So anyway, that Texas plant that's going to be refining and shipping natural gas, liquefied natural gas, there's a key: refining. This stuff is not clean. It's dirty. Things have to be removed from it, and other useful products can get extracted from it and sold off somewhere else as a side gig for that terminal. So inside of that is pollution permits. How much they are allowed to release of pollutants into the environment. This work, this paper, this proposal, this number of proposals for licensing are written by the companies interested in doing business or close relatives to those companies. They have a vested interest in making the business work because they're both profit-driven. So these can be written very differently, very oddly, very hard to interpret, because there are things called accidents, there's things called process upsets that release environmentally harmful chemicals. Some of them are very much so. Typically they wouldn't get out, but remember, the process upset, the flare stacks you see off in the distance are all burning. So those little releases, those minor releases, say it happened for 6 hours of operations during the day, only released 10,000 gallons of some type of nasty gas, but that nasty gas will only affect 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000, or maybe 10 in 1,000, because it's just a lung irritant that's already adding on top of the other lung irritants we're introduced to through the course of our lives. So people know about these things and understand them. These are multivariate equations. There is not one single answer to many of these. If you've ever done chromatography and studied gas chromatography, you would understand how complicated it is. How do you pick a column to separate gases? Now they're capillary columns, so there's a little bit more going on there. Big science. Smart people that know a lot about this, they're out there. We've been doing this for a long time, but for some reason, we're supposed to have a 3-letter word to answer all of this. And it's funny, the people with the most money are the ones putting these 3-letter words in front of us as an answer. Peace is out. Be good.